Well, hello and welcome to a special SC Humanities program in celebration of the upcoming 67th Emmy Awards by the National Academy of the Television Arts and Sciences. I'm Ty Barnes, I'm Communications Director.
And I'm LaRushla Murphy, Development Director, and we are delighted to be your host for a powerful conversation of art, history, and humanity.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me today. What a delight to chat with you.
Yes, yes, definitely. We're happy, very great you could join us. Yeah. But we will be today exploring your film, Hope of Escape. Deeply moving, little background here, deeply moving historical drama that brings to life little known true history of an enslaved mother and daughter seeking freedom in 19th century Charleston, South Carolina. The film blends rigorous historical research with storytelling and offers a timely reflection on freedom, identity, and the American experience. So we are honored that you could join us today, Amy, to have this great discussion with us and played a very extreme pivotal role in the project today. Definitely glad to have you with us today. So before we begin, we just wanted to take a moment to have you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and more before we get a chance to dive into the film.
My name's Amy Gerber-Stroh. I'm a filmmaker and a film professor. I've really been a filmmaker for almost 30 years and done a whole bunch of independent documentaries and narrative films. I also a chair at the film department at Hollins University, which is in Roanoke, Virginia, sort of the southwest part of Virginia. And so I sort of do both things, make films and also teach film. Uh, yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me about the film. I'm really excited.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Right. Well, awesome. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive in here.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about the start with origins and historical foundation. So let's begin with the origin of the film.
Yeah.
When first inspired you to tell this particular story?
Yeah, well, I've made a lot of films, some of them about my family. So this, I think, the second film I've done about my family. And in 2019, my mother passed away, and I thought that I should do a story about her ancestors, my ancestors, to honor her. But also, it was an opportunity for me to really try a film that offers another perspective on the historical narrative of enslaved people in this country and sort of offer just another story, another alternate story that shows another side of that time period during slavery times. And so I was really hoping to show something different from what we've normally seen in sort of the Hollywood depiction of enslaved people, and also introduce another part of history that I don't think is always focused on.
Right. Well, you just hinted at tracing your own family history.
Mhm.
So, how did you use your family connection with the historical figures and maybe some of the records to create the basis for a hope of escape?
Yeah, I luckily I had a lot of materials and information within my family that especially stories growing up. And then later, as I got older, I started digging and figuring out sort of what the history was of my family. One of my uncles wrote a book about my ancestors, specifically my great great grandmother and grandfather. And so there was a great jumping off point for me to, think about really what were the strong, women in my family on my mother's side. What did they have to go through? What were their challenges? And then, just sort of really uh, gathering a team of historians and historical consultants
Right.
to really dig into the details. Luckily, my ancestors were literate. They actually were taught to read and write when they were enslaved, and so there's a lot of written material, firsthand accounts, diaries, letters, and things like that that I based the film on. So it's a sort of a true story. At first I was saying, hey, I was going to maybe make a documentary about it. But the
Mhm.
one thing that I was really hoping for was to hear them, to see them go through their challenges, to hear their voices in a way. So I made it a narrative based on all these really these details.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. And so you mentioned that you had your family's history and archives and collections, and that great that you had their diaries. Because there's definitely going to lead to the fact because Charleston, which is where it's location in the film, it has such a rich and complex history. So we are definitely going to ask what role did the any in South Carolina's local archives or historians or your team that you had to pull together bring to play in bringing the accuracy and the texture of the film.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was so grateful to work with a lot of people in South Carolina, especially in the Charleston area. The College of Charleston was really, a big part of my research, which I did for a year or so before shooting. Let me see, Dr. Adam Dombey, Dr. Shannon Eves, they're both really awesome historians there at the College of Charleston, and they were really just so good at answering my questions. Was I on the right track? How might my great grandmother have felt, or been exposed to when she was in Charleston, working on the plantation near there called Rice Hope Plantation, and just really getting a sense from their expertise, and checking with them that I was on the right track. I also used definitely the South Carolina Historical Society. They were very helpful, finding things in their archives for me, which was fantastic and exciting. Um, I think Molly Silliman was a librarian there. I just wanted to give a shout out to her for helping me
Right.
find some things, because a lot of people think, gosh, the record is really scrambled, and there's a lot of patches that are not there,
Mhm.
especially when you're
Yeah.
digging into your Black history. And they were just so great, finding church records, and in South Carolina, and just finding all these amazing documents. Of course, there's a lot of documents that have been saved by the slaveholders themselves, and so that was also very helpful. What else? Who else did I work with? Just definitely the South Carolina Department of Archives and History.
Mhm.
That site was really helpful in just learning about where how my family might have been tied to some events, tied to different figures, historical figures. And finally, just other South Carolina government databases. I was really quite impressed by just the richness and the real work that people are doing to find out the histories of certain Black families in the state. Um, Finally, I did get to speak with Edward Ball. He was the National Book Award winner who wrote Slaves in the Family,
Mhm.
and he also helped me a lot in terms of the relations of the slaveholders in the area where my ancestors were, and how they might have connected with them or interacted with them.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, it was definitely very visual storytelling. So it was not only just the interaction between the characters, but actually the landscape that the story was told. Can you tell us a little bit more about that creative process about behind the film's tone and the design and the atmosphere?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think that what you were saying is I really wanted to immerse the viewer into not just the time period, but also those spaces, which and they're also very powerful. The rivers that the characters live by were such an intricate part of their lives, not in terms, not only for escaping, but for
Mm,
also, just living day to day and what that meant. Same with the railroad. Wanted to
mm,
show, the feeling of this railroad that can
mm,
tie you to freedom, can tie you to, your emancipation. And the
mm,
sea at the end of the film, how how they, word traveled by sea and people traveled by sea to gain their freedom as well. So I really, but I'm just so thankful that I had our cinematographer Ashton Ray, who was incredible
mm,
and was able to capture a lot of that essence. And find locations and details. There's a lot of moments in the film that have these meditative moments of just
Mm.
the environment and
mhm,
where they
mm.
are. So I think she just did a great job capturing that. And I'm so proud of her because she was one of my former students. So,
Oh.
so
Full circle moment.
yeah,
Oh.
so I was very,
Mm.
very happy for her to give me her time and capture really great imagery.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. So, what were some of the challenges you encountered while filming, especially doing a period piece such as this that
Mhm.
that does cover and is rooted in historical trauma?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, I always tell my students when you're making a low budget film, never do a period piece.
Mm.
Because that's the last thing never
Mm,
shoot animals, never, work with
mm,
kids,
mm,
stuff like that.
mhm,
Because that's
mhm,
so advanced and difficult when you don't have that much money. But
mhm,
of course, I broke the rules on all accounts
Mhm.
and
mhm,
did this. And I came to realize that it's very important for independent filmmakers to make historical pieces, even if you just have a little bit of money. It's really important because you don't want to leave um, just Hollywood to telling stories about period pieces. You really need more voices out there telling these stories. And even if it's a short film, you should consider doing it because yes, this was uh, 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 historical. There's so much historical trauma attached to this, and what I was thinking of as I deliberately chose not to show as much violence against Black bodies. I mean, I think there's enough out there in terms of um, showing, it's always there in my film. It's always overshadowing every scene. But I made a choice to show I guess the violence of the institution of slavery in different ways.
Mhm.
In
yeah,
itself, it's a violent institution, and but I wanted to show, something about the time period, but that young folks could watch it too and not be traumatized, and learn about this time period. But I have to say, filming it was quite difficult at times. It was very emotional. Tears flowed often, and I remember one story I'll share with you. There was a lot of children actors in the scenes, and some of the children had yet to have the talk, about the history of Black people in the country for the first time, and it was very, very, very difficult. And we had their family with us, and just getting us through some of those scenes was helpful. And it was very collaborative as well with the actors and the crew involved. So it was difficult at times, but we all were determined to really, um, tell another story, to
Mhm.
show and add another chapter to the slavery narrative in this country.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you talk about the actors and how they embodied the characters that were
Yeah.
not just characters, they're your family members as well.
Mhm.
How did you work with them to make sure that they were capturing the true story and the respect that I would think that you want your family to deserve
Oh,
or be honored in?
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great question. I think I was blessed with a very talented cast.
Mhm.
I really was. They like Mizan Kirby, who's one of the stars who plays my great-great-grandmother. She's a well-established actor in New York in theater, and I Hope Blackstock, who played um, the abolitionist, and just really, has a whole sort of career in TV in New York and sort of broadcast TV. Um, they, they gave me their all, and they really saw my vision. But some of the actors that have never acted and have acted for the first time, like Marley Gregory, who is a native of South Carolina. He played my great-great-grandfather, Wilby.
Mhm.
Um, and Kendra Chidea, Lamont Williams, April Marcel, all of these folks, just really gave their all and really understood what we were trying to do. And they became collaborators, as we did scenes. They helped me sort of see things I never would have even thought of during the process of the shooting. And they worked very hard to develop their own characters. And so I'm just really grateful for their help.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the title of the film itself, Hope of Escape,
Mhm.
that invokes the emotions, but there's a sense of evokes there's fear and there's
Mhm.
longing, and just with the topic and subject of the film itself. In terms of the context of the film, and even for you, what does hope mean when thinking about that word? Hmm.
Right, right. Hope means so many things. I think, I could have called the film Hope to Escape, which sort of focuses on just the escape, just wanting to be free. But I I decided to call it Hope of Escape, with the idea that uh, there is hope and so many opportunities in these people's lives if they do have the chance to escape. Now, no, not everybody did have the means to escape, um, but I think it was really about you know the hope for a better future. If you just give us a chance to have our freedom, the hope of our future would change, not just for each individual families, but for our country. It was a hope for a better country. Um, uh, these Americans that happened to be enslaved were ready to contribute to our society, to be wonderful citizens, and give back and just create a wonderful new country. And this could be only done until for some to after they escaped, or emancipation later on. I think that manumissions, which was where slaveholders would give their enslaved folks their freedom, had ended definitely in the 1850s and 1860s. And so there was really no other way to get your freedom but to escape, or of course later after the Civil War. So,
Right.
but I think that, my ancestors, as many other families, were sort of these bridge generations of really having wonderful skills and talents and being able to survive under their circumstances, but also be able to translate that later when they were free, which was not an easy thing to do. So it's not like they were like Frederick Douglass or others that really had a big chunk of their lives in the North being free and trying to work out. But it was really, trying to translate what their lives were in these enslaved areas and how they could survive as free people as well. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think mind you, the story of my family and the reason I know much of my family is the privilege that I had because, as you can see, I'm of mixed race, and many, going back to colonial days, my family was of mixed race as well. So there was an advantage having light skin and, being educated by their slave masters, being taught how to read. Those were all privileges that they had that a lot of other enslaved people did not have. So, um, you know, what uh, what I've learned throughout my own family and the lineage of my family is they were determined to be good citizens and give back, as free people and use their talents that they had to not make their lives better, but other lives better as well. So, does that answer your question a little bit?
It does, and I think
Yeah.
as you talk about your family lineage, the film also invites the viewers to reflect on legacy, family, and freedom. What do you hope that the audience will carry with them after watching the film?
Yeah, I think the legacy really of my family story belongs to all Americans.
Mm.
I really think that it's not just my story, it's all of our stories. And I really would love for audiences to leave with a sense of pride, that these were individuals that were courageous and brave and went through a lot to get where they were, and to face adversity. Both the black characters and white characters in the film. They're recognizing allies, recognizing
Right.
um, who was really in a state of trying to make the world a different place. I mean, I go back to our description of or definition of hope. I really go back to Barack Obama's definition of hope. He was talking about hope is a thing that insists, despite all evidence to the contrary, that something better awaits us. That um, destiny will not be written for us, but by men and women who are not content to settle for the world as it is. I love those words, and I just kept saying those words to myself as we made the film. That it's really, if you have the means to take action, take action um, and work towards not just your own freedom, your own benefits, but how is this going to benefit our society as a whole? So, but anyway, so I hope the audiences come, with a sense of pride, but also recognizing the tragedies that happened, what are the consequences of the institution of slavery? How is it reaching us today? How are the things that they went to, or what they went through, how does that relate to what we're going through today? What can we learn? So, but I also want my story to spark curiosity, for people to learn and investigate this time period more. There's so many stories that haven't been told. We've
Right.
only been channeled a few.
Mhm.
Harriet is great, but there are other stories
Mhm.
out there.
Mhm. Yeah.
that are not as simplistic and very complicated,
Right. Mhm.
and I think I'm hoping that my film shows some of this complexity of, how um, people, just real people, navigated their lives
Right.
under this horrible institution. Um, and just, I hope that maybe the film will get people online and finding out about their own families,
Mhm.
you can do it. I think even if you don't have written materials from your ancestors left behind, there are, I think, more and more ways to discover what your own history, who you're related to, what happened,
Mhm.
where did they work, where did they come from. And I think South Carolina actually is doing a great job of that, of helping families find their ancestry,
Right.
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great that you mentioned that, yeah, because that actually leads to the next question we have here, which is
Yeah.
about how does the film itself contribute to the larger conversations that may come about South Carolina as people would view the film, that curiosity, thinking about the history and the stories that have yet to be told in this state, especially in South Carolina.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
I have to tell you a story about showing the film at the International African American Museum
Hmm.
in Charleston.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
been
Yeah.
amazing. And so last year we screened the film, and it was just amazing. It was sort of, not only is it a fantastic museum, but they have such a moving memorial there, and it's just, the location was eye-opening and very inspiring for me. And so, the people that came to see the film was fantastic. There were amazing discussions. I hope to show it in South Carolina again, in person somewhere. But um, you know, just really a warm reception from the people. I even actually met possible distant relatives at the
Oh,
screening.
great.
So it's like, oh my God, we might be related. Um,
Hmm.
and so, so it's really neat. I made an effort to visit. Unfortunately, I wasn't given permission to film at Rice Hope Plantation, which is in Monk's Corner area,
Yeah.
Cooper's Landing. But I did, visit there a lot, and I was able to get a chance to meet with folks, and uh, everybody's, just fantastic. But I have to mention South Carolina Humanities. It's been wonderful meeting you guys, and working with you, and just your support gave me the capabilities to shoot and film and research. So that was wonderful. I love the support of the Gullah Geechee corridor that you have. That was really inspirational for me. Um, and it's just, I keep coming back. I keep wanting to come back and talk more. I hope to collaborate more with the International African American Museum, to talk about resources for people looking into their roots and finding pathways to find their own narratives. So that's something I'm definitely going to do. But it's just been a wonderful time to connect, with folks that their ancestors were slaveholders, and having those discussions, and talking about all of the things, not that just happened in that area, but larger concepts of how do we keep going and learning about this time.
Right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Both Lareshla and I, we were very excited. We wanted to ask you because we both watched the film, and
Hmm.
Oh,
there
thank
is.
you. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah, definitely. And yes, definitely. It was amazing. And we were watching and discussing it as well and talk about parts. So it was a good discussion. We
I
were like,
want to
this.
hear your questions. Yeah, tell me, like, often,
Yeah. Mm,
off the script. Definitely
mm,
ask me
mm.
questions.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh yeah, great. So there was a particular line in the film,
Yeah.
and when we went back to it, we were both like, "Oh, this is our favorite line right here.
Oh,
This
That's
is really
great.
like it really stuck with us." And it's the one between when the narrator Diana, I think she mentions about Wilby and Cornelia, and it's they would never forget that exciting moment. They both realized the secret power of literacy between them.
mhm.
Words immediately connected them. Words gave them their friendship and their humanity. And we were like, wow, that
Oh, thank
so
you.
much meaning, so much powerful. So we
Mhm.
were definitely like, okay, we got to ask her.
Yes.
So to elaborate more on that, more on the line, how it came to be, and what and how it emphasizes the theme of the film overall. But yeah, that was we both were like, that's our
Oh
favorite
yeah.
line.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, when I wrote those lines, I think, I was connecting to my ancestors and these strong women who, and just the idea of education. The only true way to freedom for them was, learning words, being able to write, to read. And it's the same, throughout the generations. I come from a long line of educators, teachers that go back, right after the Civil War. And I think that um, it was something that definitely my ancestors clung on to, and not only used literacy as their way to escape and take advantage of those skills, but a way to remind themselves that they were human beings that needed respect and autonomy, and all of those things that uh, you know, reading and writing can do. So I think I wouldn't have been able to make the film without them understanding that power that they had between them, and being able to communicate with each other and write to each other. Even when Wilby ended up becoming a Navy, so on a boat, going in the Navy, a
Yeah.
Union
Hmm.
sailor.
Hmm.
um, they communicated, they kept writing to each other, and it's what kept them going, it kept them alive mentally.
Yeah.
Physically, they were okay. They were in a pretty um, privileged roles, being Wilby being a talented plasterer and mason, and my grandmother and great 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 grandmother, they were sort of the house slaves, the top slaves in the house. But the writing, helped them retain their connections with each others, and also with their free families in the north. They
Mhm.
weren't. A lot of people don't know that so many families received their freedom for years and were trying to get their ancestors, I mean, their relatives that remained down in the South, their freedom, and would work very hard to find money to pay the slave masters, to pay off and get their freedom that way. So it has many meanings, but most of it was dignity and being able to survive. Um, the horrible circumstances they were in.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that many, many others, weren't taught that, and
Mhm.
didn't have those advantages.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
And I enjoy how you brought up that scene from the ship with Willoughby receiving that letter, because my first thought was that you never know when a letter is coming. So just having that anticipation that there's someone out in the world that's thinking of me enough to risk whatever legal dangerous activities to be able to
Mm,
just read and write. Um, to receive that letter. So it was just really powerful
mm,
in that way. And the time periods where it would take it could take weeks, months before a letter would come. So you don't know what would happen to your family member in that process. So it was that line, it was very powerful for
Oh,
me.
thanks. I'm so glad you brought up the letter writing because yeah,
Hmm.
the letter was such a powerful thing. I mean, you see that
Hmm.
even in 12 Years a Slave,
Hmm.
just that
Yeah.
gosh, sometimes a letter would come and it would change your life
Hmm.
forever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's the letter writing and and they were good writer. I was so amazed by reading, the diaries, and you can see the diary at the Massachusetts Historical Society. They have it there now, and you can actually
Hmm.
read a diary that Wilby wrote. Um, and he could really write well. It's just amazed. They wrote way better than I can.
Hmm.
And just you know, the power, how powerful it is.
Hmm.
It really hit home to me too. So
Yeah.
thank you for pointing
Yeah.
that out.
And then it's also this the unknown of if the letter's going to get intercepted or who's going to find it, or all of those things that are tied to that just whole concept of communication.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And talk about hope. Letters could be filled with hope.
Hmm.
And then other letters like their their relatives up north, they would receive bad news that, maybe the slaveholder has changed his mind now, what I'm going to do, what are we going to do? And the time frame, how long it
Right.
took for these messages to go back and forth must have been
Hmm.
excruciating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no internet back then, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, with our next question, we talked a little bit about the collaborations and how you worked with the International Museum,
Mhm.
the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor, and we are honored to be able to be part of just you being able to make this film and being a small support in that. Um, and how you capture and make the story that is a personal story humanize it for us as well. But can you share a little bit more about other scholars or educators that you haven't mentioned that you want to include in this discussion as well?
Yes, thank you. First, let's start with you guys. South Carolina Humanities. Um, I was really touched. I actually teared up a little bit because I really think you being involved, it's such a South Carolina story. And that's where my ancestors come from. So I really appreciated the support. I couldn't have made the film without your grant. So but yes, I had the Virginia Humanities. They definitely contributed. Women Make Movies is an organization that helps women directors. They became my fiscal sponsor, and they were wonderful and actually helping me work with you guys to get funding and Foot Candle. You can see some of them up on the screen there. Foot Candle Society, the Virginia Film Office, and I'm a professor, so I do tap into the University of Film and Video Association, which helps film professors make their own work and supports them. So that was really quite helpful. But also a lot of scholars, I think. Definitely I had my historical consultants who were a lot of them based in universities. They're historians in universities, but I want to give a shout out to a lot of independent scholars that have contributed and found materials. I was able to Brian Price, one of my independent scholars, he was able to track down a huge piece that changed my whole thinking of the film. He found the wanted ad when uh, uh, the my family escaped, and some of the things, old
Hmm.
newspaper clippings of a wanted ad of how to capture them.
Right.
And I wouldn't have been able to find that without an independent scholar. So that really happened. And I got a lot of great research from them. And it's really film festivals have been very helpful. The film has gone through festivals and helped spread the
Mhm.
word. So it's just been a really great experience from beginning to end.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. We definitely want to know what's next, what's coming up next for the film Hope of Escape. Yep. So you know you have the Emmys. That's the we know
Yes, right.
we know
Yeah,
you have the Emmys. That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
big we know you have that coming up, but definitely any other plans of what's next for the film, any more screenings, discussions. I know you mentioned the International African American Museum, which I've not been to visit yet, but I've heard
Oh, you should.
I know I've heard it's amazing. I've been to the one in DC though, and that one was
Oh yeah.
incredible,
No, that
absolutely incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, but I've not been to the one in Charleston yet, so it's on my list to get down there definitely to see it and visit it. But definitely we'd love to hear what's next for the film.
Yeah, yeah. What I mentioned is that I had such a great run for the festival run went really well. I screened all over New York and Ohio, Detroit, Nantucket. Um, but I'm continuing to this year do more of an educational tour. Usually festivals are just to get you some exposure. But I really want to go in person, and go on sort of a national tour this year coming up, just to screen at universities and other organizations. So I'll be doing that. I'll continue to work with my distributor. I was lucky enough to get picked up by a distributor, and they have been literally streaming my film all over the world, which is amazing. So,
Mhm.
definitely going to continue with that. On some platforms, I'm way past the 1 million viewer, uh, sort of mark. So that's
Great.
going. I also will be I'm continuing to work on a site that's going to be linked to my website, the film website, which is a little archive of all the materials I gathered for the film,
Mhm.
which will help with scholars maybe to with their research, or help families that are trying to do their genealogy and sort of their search for their ancestors. And hopefully by the end of this summer, I want to get all these materials and resources all in one place, because I found such a lot of amazing stuff that might help other people. So I'll be doing that. And like what I mentioned before, I hope to come back to the International African American Museum and work with them more to get. They have a great center to help families, start up their search, and go through some of the process that I went through, and maybe I can offer some help in that area. So that's what's going on, and I guess just wish me luck for the Emmy. I think just being nominated is such an honor, and I
Mhm.
in the company of other great filmmakers for who I'm competing with. So
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it will be nice to celebrate their
Mhm.
work too
Yeah.
when I'm there. But yeah, do you have any other questions for me? I'm always honored that anybody spends their very important time to sit down and watch a film. So anything else that came to mind from the film from you two?
For me, I think the biggest thing was the family connection. And I was one sister, I can't remember which sister said, it wasn't that we forgot about you. It was that we
Mhm.
Mhm.
didn't know how to connect with you
Yeah.
or how
Hmm.
to save you without risking ourselves. But in the end, they risked it all
Yeah.
just to bring their
Yeah.
sister closer.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
empowering moment was when they all three sisters were sick at the same time because they could
Mm.
feel
Yes.
each other's
Mhm.
emotional pain
Yeah.
during the
Hmm.
process of bringing Diana
Mhm.
Hmm.
home to them. So
Yeah.
for me, it was I've lost both of my parents recently,
Oh, I'm
and
so sorry.
seeing that connection between the souls reminds me of the connection that I have with my soul with my family. So it
Yeah.
was very encouraging and
Oh,
And it makes you want to fight for your legacy. So I greatly appreciate that part of the film as well.
oh, thank you. No, I'm so like I just have an extremely strong connection to my family. I have one sister who worked on the film with me. She was associate producer, and yeah, I really wanted to bring in that power of family into the film. So thank you. I always, thought that those three sisters could almost feel each other, emotionally.
Right.
They affected each
Yeah,
other, even
right.
though they
Mm-hmm.
were they were forced to be distanced with each other,
Right.
from hundreds of miles away. And I feel that that was something important to show. But even when my main, the passing of my mother really helped build a strong tie, and just gratefulness to my ancestors and what
Yeah.
these women went through and how just in awe I am of them. And
Right.
yeah, it just really was an important piece that I'm glad that came through.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Did, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I can definitely say, and I was telling Rushla, I was on the edge of my seat. In the end, I was
Oh,
like,
you were? Oh,
I was like, because it gets it when Wilby and everyone's are in the boat and they're going and they're like they see the ship. It's like, okay, if it's a Confederate or it's a Union, how's this
Mhm.
gonna go? And then with
I
her on the
know.
train, it was like I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my gosh, please let this
Oh,
all
Right.
come together. Let this work. We'll let this work out. As please let the family come back together, and it did. So, but I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my goodness, just because that so many the danger that was going on and just the scene. So I would say, yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like,
oh,
okay, how's this
wow.
gonna go?
That's great.
Um,
That's
yeah.
great though. That no, I wouldn't be here talking to you if it had been a Confederate ship.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So, not to give it, uh-oh, spoiler. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
but I think I just, 90% of the stuff was true. I tried to keep it as close to the details of this historical accuracy that I could, and that was absolutely accurate. And again, I hope to get this. Hopefully, I can get your viewers and your YouTube watchers to my archive when I have it done, because
Mhm.
you can see, what Wilby was saying about, oh my God,
Right.
what's going to
right.
happen next in
Mhm.
his own writing. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
I agree.
That
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I will say that I guess I didn't pick up that it was a true story until the end of the film.
Mhm.
And I
Oh,
love finding
Yeah.
your roots with Henry Louis Gates. So if I ever get a chance to meet him, I'll
Yes, I do
probably
too as
pan out.
well.
But knowing
Hmm.
that it is a true story makes me want to think about, doing more research on my family because I've done some basics, but I'm like, now I want to dive in. Let me
that
go
was my
Yeah.
question for you.
prophesy and dig in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How far have you gotten? Has it,
Not far. I get
yeah.
kind of stuck in the early 1900s with
Okay.
my dad's family. My mom's family is very difficult to find.
Yeah.
So it would be great to just find some pieces to pull things together. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's all sorts of resources. Of course, everybody knows
Yep.
ancestry.com, which you have to
Hmm.
pay for, but also
Hmm.
the family search site, which is run by the Mormon Church,
Hmm.
is also another great site for
Hmm.
anybody in this
Mhm.
country. And then you can go from there. So
Right.
definitely, I don't know if you'll have my information, but I really encourage people to reach out to me if they would love to talk more about the film, but also about searching their families or anything else, they're thinking about with their research. Feel free to leave my contact information, and I would be happy to help them.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sounds
great,
wonderful.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I did want to ask, while I have you, one kind of off the cuff question for you, Amy.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, because I'm a film person. So I was, yes. So I'm definitely, I said, I have you. I just wanted to ask,
Yeah.
if you, and this, I know this might be the worst question to get, especially as a film director.
Not at
And
all.
Professor, this might be the worst question, but if you can, definitely, I would love to know your favorite directors and
Mm.
favorite films. If you
Mm.
can name one or three, or that's why I said that's probably the worst question. It's
It's
probably the worst question to
hard. It's
ask
just
you.
hard. It's not a bad one. It's just like really hard.
Uh-huh.
Um, definitely Ava DuVernay is I'm a big fan of her
Oh,
stuff,
love
especially
her.
because she does a lot of cool historical stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really into history. Gosh, this is a hard one.
No.
I should have like researched it a little bit. But yeah, I think,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the 70s. A lot of filmmaking from that. I just grew up with a lot of the filmmakers. So Terrence Malick is another one. I don't know if you know who Terrence Malick is, but he did Days of Heaven, and he just has a style of filmmaking that is sort of deliberate and used locations and spaces and landscapes to tell their story, to tell stories about the past and historical period pieces. I'm trying to think of who else is exciting that I can tell you that I really like. I don't know. I'm really Daughters of the Dust director. I'm trying to think.
Great. That's a great film.
Yeah,
Mhm.
directed that. Um, she actually um, was at the museum. Julie Dash, of course. Yeah, Julie Dash is an amazing director that I really am sort of a fangirl of. What about you? Who are some of your great? Tell me your directors.
You're my directors?
Because I'm sort of
Okay.
like an old
And your
lady.
director.
You guys you're young, so I want to hear
Mm-hmm.
contemporary. These are sort of old folks that I'm mentioning
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
What
for
about you?
me, okay. Yeah. So for me, I love Ava DuVernay. Love her.
Yeah.
So, yep. I'm trying to think. She recently, oh my God, she recently did a film, and I can't remember the name escapes me, and it was on Hulu, and it had,
Was it the
uh,
13th Amendment one or?
no, not that. No, not that one. It was another
Mm.
one, and oh my gosh, the name escapes me. It'll probably come to me after we wrap up, and I'll be like, "That's what it was.
I
That's what
know.
it was."
That's why it's like,
But love her. Gina Blythewood. Gina, a Love and Basketball director.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Gina, I might be butchering her. Yeah, but
No,
Gina,
that's
yep, yeah, yep. So, love her, loving basketball, and then
mm.
the Woman
Oh
King,
yeah.
the King, is in there too, and then the Old Guard. So she's done got tipping her toes into action and all that. So love her too.
Yeah.
Greta Gerwig,
Okay, Greta Gerwig,
Greta
absolutely.
Gerwig, yes,
Uh,
yes. The Barbie movie was so much more emotional than I thought.
yeah.
It's very deep. It was very deep and deep. But I was like, yeah. But Greta
I think it
Gerwig,
should have gotten more credit for what it accomplished, yeah, I think yeah, there's a lot to learn. Those different levels that she did in that film was awesome. Um yeah, no, I trying to think of someone else that's really inspired me lately, but it's
Mhm.
just been I don't know, I got an old brain. My brain is not working today. So
Well, I can't say that I have directors that I know in mind, but
mm-hmm,
I am more, when I watch a film, I'm always looking at costuming. So I love
mm-hmm,
period, time period costuming. I love sci-fi costuming and just how
ooh,
they,
yeah.
they all work and how the clothing tells parts of the story. I remember watching, I think it's called The Underground, and how they
Mm.
utilize the color
mm-hmm.
yellow throughout the film to
Oh
symbolize hope
wow.
in each
Yeah, I remember.
different scene. So those are the things that I kind of look for when I'm watching films is the clothing and the symbolism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Mm-hmm,
think that for Hope of Escape, I mean,
Mhm,
that's some of the challenges, of trying to
mhm,
find costumes, trying to find horse and carriages, trying to be
mhm,
authentic. But you can do so many great things with color and costumes, not just to put you in the time period, but to give you underlying meanings,
Right.
which is
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
so much part of it. That's how the
Yeah.
audiences get into it, and
Yeah.
feel all these emotions.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think that you both should start thinking of making films, if you haven't already.
This is our first endeavor together. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
What's in the
knows?
future for what's in the
Mhm,
future for us?
mhm.
But what's in the future for you? What projects are you working on now, or do you have envision for? And how can the viewers of this um interview when it airs follow you on social media?
oh gosh, airs for Hope of Escape or something in the future. Is
For
that?
something in the future, or
Oh
just
my
in
God.
Mhm,
general, just to stay
mhm.
connected with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm hoping. I know it's going to
Mhm.
be something historical. I usually have like three things in the oven or on the
Hmm.
burner. I can't remember. Maybe that's how you say it. But yeah, one of them might be going just a generation, two generations, not going way back in my family, but just two generations ago, which is my two grandfathers, my black grandfather and my white grandfather,
Hmm.
and how different their lives were, and comparing them. They worked at the same place, but their
Hmm.
lives were completely different.
Right.
My white grandfather was a Nazi scientist,
Hmm.
brought over after World War II.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
my black grandfather was one of the first black engineers hired for the U.S.
Mhm.
Army. So,
Oh, wow.
it's just sort of
Mhm.
really comparing and contrasting, and
Right.
how that what that said about that time period, which was in the post-war time, sort of the Cold
Yeah.
War,
Mhm.
the 1940s to 50s and 60s. So I think I might look into that a little
Hmm.
bit,
Mhm.
but I also might be doing a film about one of the few women to be a U-2 spy plane pilot,
Hmm.
Wow. Okay.
during those crazy times with Russia and the Cold War. So I might, if she lets me, I would love to go into a U-2 spy plane too, just for fun. I don't
Right.
know. But yeah, it'll probably be something historical, so I'll let you know when I figure it out,
All right, please
and
do.
see how it comes off.
Yes.
And but hopefully, I'll be back in South Carolina, and definitely, continue to spread the word about the film, but also just get involved in the history down there. That's always something I'm going to continue to do. So um, yeah,
Right.
thank you so much
Thank you.
for all of
Yes.
your fantastic questions. They were all
Mhm.
wonderful, and it was just great to connect with you two.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, definitely. It was great speaking. And it was Gina Prince Blythewood and Origin was the film by Ava DuVernay. It did.
Aha.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love
Yes.
that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not. It came to me just like that. Yeah. I have not seen it yet, but that was one that just came to me. It's on my list too. But yeah. So
You know
from
what
either.
is one of my favorites that I'm looking at right now before you
Mm-hmm.
go? Origin was something I want to see, but Middle of Nowhere.
Mm.
Did you see that
Okay.
one?
I haven't seen that one
I
yet.
haven't
That
That's
seen
was
on my
one
that
of
list.
one.
her
Yeah.
real earlier ones,
Mhm.
before she was known as a director, and I thought, what an incredible performance by this woman.
Hmm.
And I highly recommend it. So
Okay.
definitely,
Great. Yeah. I
yeah.
love a good recommendation.
Yeah. Well, keep doing all your good work down there.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the work you're doing, and helping independent filmmakers. It really makes a difference.
Yes, of course. Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so, yes, thank you. We are so glad that you could join us today for this great discussion on this film and about your background, a little bit more about the stories. It was great. But definitely for if you haven't seen Hope of Escape, we encourage others to go watch it, share it. Right now it is playing on Prime Video, YouTube, Google Play, and Tubi. For some more information about any upcoming humanities programming, you can visit shumanities.org. Until then, next time, stay curious and engaged.
Mhm.
Yeah, but great. It was so great talking with you, Amy.